That would be really funny. He gets all the way there and doesn't do the dance.
There's one on there with 1
looks
second.
Like we're live. Oh, yeah, just went away. We're live and it went away.
Are we live? We're live. I think so. Should we wait to make sure we are live? We're live? We're doing it live. It's KSR Football Podcast. I'm Nick Roush, joined by Max Duffy. Hey, Max.
How you doing? Yeah, we're good?
We're good. I think we're good. Hey, Drew.
How are we doing? Are we sure we're good?
Are we positive? I just want to make sure we're good. Lucky, do you think we're good?
Just hang on.
Did a great intro.
Right, you go ahead. I don't interrupt you, but I don't see anything on YouTube. Go ahead.
The first intro was good. Is the second one going to be good? We'll see. We're going to talk about Kentucky and Florida. It wasn't fun. It wasn't very fun at all. I'm a little upset. And it's not as much as upset. I'm just... typically, after a bad loss, you're just ready to fire and brimstone and have hot takes. I have a lot of thoughts. I don't really know how to order them, so maybe it just comes out as word vomit. I'm not really sure, but Drew, I don't know. We're gonna trudge our way through this thing because it might get ugly, might be bad, but it's been pretty ugly. It was not a fun time down in Gainesville.
It's been quite terrible. Looks like confirmed good. I'm looking at it on the old YouTube.
Sorry, but
It would have been really funny if we would have spilled something.
I see us looking good.
Can we get another bird in here to really spice things up?
My looking great. Yeah, we got an hour to complain. I have several complaints. You all have several complaints. We could do 2 hours if you want to. I'd rather not. But just want to do a wellness check on you and Luckett since you made the trip. Max and I were lucky enough. We're at home. We were pissed. We were on our couches. We got to keep living our lives this weekend. What time did y'all even get back from Gainesville?
About 11:30 Sunday night. It was about 4 a.m. when we settled down after the game. But like the long nights, the night kicks, they're not our favorite. Mark Stoops said they're not his favorite either. It's just a long day. You're waiting around.
It wasn't out of choice. It wasn't like an old school movie type thing.
No,
you weren't crashing any parties. You just dragged out.
Well, yeah, it was just a long time. But we did. When Charlie Jones, he scored that touchdown. That was a good moment for you.
That was nice.
Yeah.
And then I had to watch the Bengals win. Let's just see. We don't need to get negative about the Bengals win, but yeah. Tired. I think tired is a buzzword, but that's a job.
Yeah.
So no complaining. No crying from I don't have a yacht.
Yeah.
No crying from my neighbor's pontoon.
Yeah. Those pontoons are great, by the way. Right? Like the little tri-tune, especially like when you get off the boat and you kind of swim underneath it and you get the echo.
My family had a pontoon growing up. That was my favorite thing to do was get underneath it and hide because you can pop up.
Oh, so much fun.
Great times.
Oh, pontoons are great. The Steelers one, that was cool. So we got to listen to that on the way back. But yeah, it was a long trip. The drive doesn't seem as long after wins, and I was fortunate enough to have back-to-back trips back from Gainesville with wins. This was not. This was a loss, a 28-point loss as a 3.5-point favorite, if I'm not mistaken. It was a game that Vegas thought the Cats should have won, and they did not play well. And the weird part is that it wasn't a like we've done this song and dance before, Max, where it's like, oh, if the offense would just score touchdowns instead of not score touchdowns, maybe they would win games. But the defense didn't play good. And it wasn't just that Lagway had a bunch of yards. It was so weird in that he completed only 7 passes, but 5 of them were for 40 yards. And then they ran the ball kind of all over this Kentucky defense, a defense that nobody had been able to run on all year long.
They did. But we talked about it last Monday. We've talked about it, pre-game shows, all that kind of stuff. If you can't score, you're not going to win games. So we scored 13 offensive points. Obviously, we got the kickoff return for 7, but scored 13 offensive points again. At some point, if you can't hold on to the ball and you can't score points and you can't keep your defense off the field, the damn wall's going to break. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's a mulligan for the defense. Like, do we want to play like that? Absolutely not. But at some point, like, you've got to be able to keep your defense off the field and stop having to defend every 30 seconds. And to me, it's like, we've been unbelievable against Georgia, unbelievable against Ole Miss, did a really good job against Vandy, even though they had the ball for a long time. At some point, Brad White can only call so much, and we can only be out there so much without giving up mistakes. And like you said, probably the more disappointing thing wasn't so much the passing yards to me, it was just inability to stop the run. Mm-hmm. And I've maybe put it out there a little bit. Number 0, very good player, sometimes doesn't try. And that hurt us on occasions on Saturday night. And I don't know what his disinterest was, but at some points, if you watch the film, he stands up and he puts his little pinky on someone, and then goes, "You guys do whatever you want." So I don't know if that was a reflection of the whole defense, but it wasn't a good look.
I mean, and it could be a thing where they're asking him to play a lot of snaps, and eventually, like you're going to take some of those off. I wasn't as mad about him specifically because they were just smashing the C gap. It was just over and over going to the C gap, going right off tackle, getting 5, 7, 8 yards, and then letting a true freshman do that to you. When he got the last touchdown, Lucky was like, "That's 5," and I got Trey Burton flashbacks, man. Yeah. That dude, Jaden Bobb might be a great running back for them. It was his first game getting a lot of playing time, but Trey Burton, he wasn't even one of the really good Florida players back in the day, and he had the 5 touchdown game, and I just was like, how are we back to here? How did we get to this point? We were kicking their ass every year, and then today they just let their 5-star sensation, the prince that was promised, we let him have a platform to show out, and you know what? It might save the Billy Napier era.
Yeah, I did feel similar in that Burton performance came out of nowhere. Same here. Really just a disappointing performance overall. Like going into the game, Nick, you knew like the one thing DJ Lagway could do is throw it deep. They're going to try to throw it deep. Mm-hmm. In that you let them just get wide open on these skinny posts and these deep posts over and over again was really, I think, frustrating. And then that, the run defense has been a constant for them. In that
this is one there.
Yeah, and it struggled. So overall, and then offensively, it's the same issues. Like I keep bringing this up. They had a 15-play drive and couldn't reach the red zone.
That's hard to do.
They just can't get exploded. We're all talking about, finishing drives, red zone, all of this, but like you can't score without explosive plays.
Break a tackle.
The one time we looked like maybe getting things going, the guy who was carrying the ball shoe came off.
Yeah.
And then he's got to go off, and Stoops is obviously so mad about that they like tape his feet together. We can't keep him out there.
They're almost like a baseball offense where their average is decent. But when runners get in scoring position, they just cannot get the hit, and they have no power.
No home run hitters.
They cannot drive the gaps. They cannot lift one out of the ballpark. It's single, station to station. But when you play like that, you just don't have much room for error. So whenever you have something bad happen, you typically are leaving the field. And that's just kind of what it feels like with this offense.
Can we at least steal a few bases or something? Little Minji on ball? I mean,
well, the best way to steal a base would be to not try to run through the third baseman if he's 450 pounds. That'd be a start. I mean, I don't know what that was, and I understand that most of the time that is the safe play to do if you don't want to get yelled at by the coach. But at that point, against that team and that individual specifically, maybe not.
I mean, when was the last time you saw somebody successfully jump over the line? It's not a thing anymore. I mean, I know it used to be a thing, but I'm trying to.
I don't even try it anymore.
Yeah, it's not the only thing. They might do the quarterback sneak. That's the new rage. Is like the bush push. You don't jump over the line. It never works.
It's become the new thing on field goal block for NFL. It's become the new thing for NFL. Everyone's pushing with the other guys. The other guys.
Which that was a bad call in the Steelers game. I didn't see it, but I'm just going to say bad call. Just blindly bad call. And the thing too is, I was down there in the press conference. Like it's like, hey, just ask Stoops if he was supposed to jump over it or not. And he was like, we hand the ball off to him, and it's his job to get in the end zone. If he does what he does, like Demi was just like, I'm going to go jump over that guy, and it's like, you got the 230-pound dude from Ohio State. He's scoring game winning. Can we give it to that guy? Maybe it's just.
This is what I don't understand. If he's healthy, is he not healthy?
Well, yeah.
As in, if he's healthy, he's good to go. So give him the ball. Like, what? I don't he didn't have a leg injury.
Wait, he
wasn't rehabbing a hamstring. He wasn't rehabbing a knee. It's not as if he hasn't been able to run around. His legs are fine. His wrist might be sore, but if his wrist's sore, then don't put him out there. Or if you put him out there, just give him the ball.
Yeah, I'm with you, Max. They're like, well, we wanted to ease him in. It's like, well, he's either good or not.
Ease him into what? What about week 1 of the season? If we can't ease him into week 1. You know what I mean? As if that was his week 1. Like we would have handed it off to him week 1. I don't understand.
I didn't understand it, but it didn't work. It's 2 straight weeks where they were inside the 5-yard line and got 0 points.
I was about to bring that up when you all were talking about the defense and getting to third base. Christian Story put you on third base. 63-yard return down inside the 10. The defense not only has been stopping teams, this game not as much, but They've done so much this season. Now they're literally taking you down to the goal line, and you still can't help them out.
And that's the part, Drew, that I mean, the defense ended up doing enough bad where they can't say this, but there is a very much – you were a part of one of those teams, Max, where it was like the defense was good, and when the offense isn't helping you, that can create some friction in the locker room.
Yep.
And – you could say, like, guys, we literally got you the ball in the 11, and you still – like, that was a chance to tie the game.
Yeah, you would have tied the game with under 4 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, like, they can't do much more for you except actually score, and that's where you can worry that things might get a little sideways.
If you think back to 2018, there would have been probably a fight in the locker room because our defense was so mad at the offense. When we played Missouri and Drew Lock couldn't even get a first down in the second half, and the defense just kept giving us ball back, we couldn't do it either. Thank God for Lynn Bowden and then that final drive, because otherwise that's what that game brings memories of just our defense going, come on, dudes, come on.
It felt like it because the week before was A&M, correct?
Yep.
And that was just, offense couldn't do anything. Defense held up the whole game. And
that's what I said at the start, like, eventually the damn wall's going to break. Like, the defense is holding up and doing their part. Eventually they're going to give up some, and that's where you need an offense that can put up some points. Like, that maybe should have just been a shootout type game. Like, it could have been a 49-48 type game if our offense can get going, because their defense is not amazing, but we're just not able to score points.
Can't score points again. Do we have I threw this out on the board. Do we have any, hey, maybe if they do this, the offense will work? Do we have any solutions? Because I
thought we've been doing that for the last month.
I like the throw a pick, so they'll throw a pick back and we can move the ball. That was not a bad play.
I run the ball, I think, at this point.
Yeah, but Kentucky
Throw to the tight ends.
Kentucky is one of two teams in FBS that has 0 30-yard runs.
I definitely think they should probably get just a little bit more run heavy.
Yeah,
especially with training them back.
I'm fine too if like you're doing some of the quarterback run stuff with Gavin. Whenever I see Gavin Wimsatt run the ball and I see Brock Vandegrift run the ball, I see the same thing. Like they're about 9-10 yard runs, and I know they were trying to take some stuff off Brock, but I feel like they're just making it easier for the defense. So maybe you do a little bit more of the quarterback run read option stuff. I know they don't want to. It's a pro style. You don't want to be RPO heavy, but maybe that's what they have to do. I don't know. I'm trying to do things. They finally got explosive because they called a flea flicker and it worked.
There's not an easy. There's not an easy button. They don't have it. If they had it, they would have pressed it 100 times already. They have. I think. Issues. Offensive line is an issue, even though they probably played a little bit better. Dane's having a really good year, but outside of receiver, who else can you trust there? Mm-hmm. Brock is up and down as a quarterback. Chip Trainum was this big ticket addition for you out of the transfer portal. You haven't had him. Mm-hmm. And then in the spring portal window, they tried to get another running back.
The guy was pretty good on Saturday.
Like Damian Martinez and then Penny Boone. So it's not like they knew that they probably needed help at that position. And so they just don't. They just have a lot of issues on offense right now. But to me, like, we're talking about this season, but like, what is it? It obviously matters. Games matter. But it's more of like, where's this program in the next year, the next 3 years? What direction are they heading in? That is the more worrisome.
And that's why this
part
is
of the issue.
An uncomfortable show, because you're just like, I don't really know. Do we know? Doesn't look good.
Because just big picture it. This is going to be the third year in a row. It's just a disappointing season. Like, you came short of preseason expectations. Mm-hmm. The 3 sounds like a trend to me.
Yep.
And so how do you flip it? Like, that's what I've been trying to ask myself. Like, how would they flip it? How do they get this back on the right track? And I just don't know. I really don't. It's hard to even envision it. Because, like, what you would think to me is like, okay, coaching or scheme change. They just made a big coaching change. They just hired 3 new offensive coaches.
Yeah.
Defense, I don't think you really want to mess that up in totality. They just hired a new special teams coordinator not too long ago. So then it goes roster. How do you change your roster? I look at their recruiting. High school recruiting is as good as it's ever been.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
They
Marquise Davis is a dog.
They're doing, like, you look in the portal, you can nitpick here or there, but for the most part, they're doing a good job filling needs, at least I believe, in the portal.
Your quarterback's supposed to be a 2-year quarterback right now.
Yeah, your quarterback, we'll see how that goes. I mean, that's one of the the bigger issue they're having is like a quarterback development and then the OC churn. I think is part of their bigger problems. But just how do you fix it? How do you flip it? I just don't know. And that's what's so hard about this. It's just like you feel like if they feel very much like they're in no man's land.
Our expectations, though, and I always push for us to be the best team we could possibly be, and I always don't like it when it's like, oh, we shouldn't be wanting to beat these big teams. We should. But our expectations may be set too high when we're fighting, in some ways, an unfair fight.
No. They should.
It's like EPL, right? English Premier League. Same teams win every single year because you can't spend as much as the other teams. We don't have as much money as these other teams. Like, how are we supposed to go, oh, well, we'll just beat these good teams when we're fighting an unfair fight?
If they hadn't had all these losses as home favorites, the teams in the league, if they hadn't beat these teams that are now beating them now, I would maybe agree with it. I don't think, like the last 2 years, I think they missed expectations by a game or a game and a half.
Yeah.
This year it feels like you've gone from a game to a game and a half, and now you're going to maybe 2 to 3 games short of expectations. And so to me, it might be little slippage, but it is slippage that is starting to increase, I would say.
My big kind of back and forth, the ping pong game that I've been trying to play in my head that's tough to define exactly, it goes back to the ultimate mantra that Stoops had that is the backbone of this program, and it's recruit and develop. And the first part, to Luckett's point, it feels like they're checking the right boxes. And when you look at on paper the star ratings and all that sort of stuff, they're checking the right boxes. Now, the second part of that, because Billy Napier will tell you this is the most talented Kentucky team he's ever seen. I beg to differ ever so slightly, because if you look at the 2021 team, you at least knew Chris Rodriguez was going to be a very good running back for that team. It was one of the better rushing seasons of all time. Wandale Robinson, very good, productive player. Will Levis, very good, productive player. But the thing is those guys, Wandale was a blue chip recruit, but Chris wasn't. He had 1,400 yards, right? Like, you were maximizing the talent. And here, like, people will tell you how great Barryon Brown is. But what are they getting from Barryon Brown right now? They are getting drop passes that lead to interceptions, then touchdowns. They're getting crazy amounts of inconsistency. They are not getting a guy who can break a tackle and then go 60 yards for a touchdown like Wandale Robinson could. Like, on paper, there appears to be talent there, but we have guys who just can't make consistent plays, who can't break tackles, who are getting lost in coverage and giving up 50, 60-yard plays. Like, I think there's a coaching issue, and it's a development issue. Like, how much better are these players getting once they get here? That's the part that, like, is very worrisome to me, because if this was truly a recruit and develop program, then you would say, well, you know what? If Stoops hangs around for another year, then, hey, the offense will be guys back. You should take a step. They were supposed to take a step this year. Has Dane taken one? I think Dane's taken one, Drew. But this whole, like, the line that Stoops had today is Barryon's been working hard and it's going to happen. Like, it's just not happening for him. And then now you're in a spot where, like, there's no other receivers. Like, who else are they going to throw the football to?
Well, that's the thing with calling this one of his most talented teams. I mean, I said it 1,000 times this summer. I think a lot of people did. Best receiver room they've had. Well, you say that, but then we're watching it. I mean, they're not actually doing that on the field. So it's fun to say that in the preseason and talk about it, but if they're not put up the numbers, then they're not one of the most talented ever. That's what we're facing right now. I mean, Barryon Brown with the ball in his hand when he's returning is special. He has not been getting it done as a receiver. I know you are part of it. You're in group chats with me. We're on Twitter, KS Board. When he dropped that ball and went the other way, there were people ready to never see him in a uniform again. And then he takes a kickback seconds later. It's like it's a wild ride with Barryon Brown, and you got to have him on the field. But some of the stuff they're forcing to him right now as a receiver on 4th and 6 and some of these end arounds, he's just not getting it done. So as many times as we want to say, Barryon's this, Barryon's that, if he's not doing it, then he's not that. And I think a lot of these guys aren't what they were. Like Jared Macklin, I mean, I know he put up those numbers, and we thought big year. I even predicted he might have better numbers than Dane and Barryon. Hadn't called his name all year.
Yeah, my only issue is I get that maybe Berrien needs less volume, but football's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying is we just keep calling them the most talented, but if they're not doing it, they're not the most talented.
I think there's definitely a case to be made there, but I do think we're going to look up on draft day and be like, oh.
How much of it, though, is turnover on the offensive stuff?
A lot of it.
An inability to have consistency in any spot of it. O-line's changed a bunch. OC's changed a bunch. Wide receiver coach changed this year. You've had so much turnover that these guys are probably hearing one message one year, one message the next year, one message next year, and what they're building on isn't consistent.
Which is why the margins are probably thin, and you've got to win close games. But they got wrecked against South Carolina and Florida, and there were teams that they should not be getting wrecked against.
And that's where I'm I go back to the coaching. It's the players too, because just break a tackle. Can we just break a tackle? And can you make somebody miss? Can one person on this team make one guy miss in a one-on-one situation? They're trying stuff. They tried to go to Anthony Brown-Stevens. He only caught one pass all year, and it was in mop-up time against Ohio. He couldn't make somebody miss. I don't know. That's why I'm just at a loss. And that's the part of it is, you're right, Max. There's been a lot of, we know the why. It's the turnover. In fact, I would go so far as to blame Jim Harbaugh for bombing an interview with the Minnesota Vikings as to why we are where we are right now. I hate to do that because you seem like such a loser, but that window was open and it slammed shut because Liam Cohen didn't get a second year with Will Levis. That was their window. You were 7th in the country at Ole Miss. You win that game. You beat South Carolina. You're rolling, right? Instead, he gets hurt. Rich says, bring on the blitz, and it's just a damn nightmare. That was
13 and 16 since that point.
That was your chance. And you know what? If Stoops does well and then somebody else hires him, then we're not stuck in this rut. And right now we're in a rut, and I don't know who you can trust to make plays, and I don't know if you can trust coaches to truly develop these players to put them in a position to succeed. That is the kind of the rut that you mentioned to earlier, that you're almost in no man's land of just suck. And it's not fun to talk about because we'd love to come in here and man, if X, Y, and Z happened on this play, then it would change the game. And you had some of those moments in the Vanderbilt game. You had some of those moments in the Georgia game. We could do that here, and we did it on the rapid reaction, but it ain't gonna matter because it's a big damn mess.
Everybody wants a fix, but this, at least the way I see the problem, isn't a scheme or a personnel. It's a culture discipline thing. There's not a discipline button where all of a sudden they're just going to start listening to you or try something new behind the scenes in the locker room. I'm not in there, but we know you could talk about it. Stoops gives a lot of player empowerment. They kind of get to do what they want to do within reason. That includes preparation and things. And if they've been doing it for so long, some way, you can't just go in there and flip a switch and say suddenly I'm going to have everyone's full attention and culture is going to change. That's a growing year after year thing that he's built that I think is now backfiring a little bit.
Yeah, but he's got 50% of the side right. Defense has always been consistent and to a good level. They have their moments, right?
That's what's so weird about it.
Okay, so he doesn't spend a whole lot of time with the whole team, okay? Because he can't, because he's out fundraising and he's out doing other things. When I interviewed him 2-3 years ago, he said, the worst thing about being a head coach is I don't get to have my fingerprint all the time on offense and defense because I can't be there all the time. I've got to go out and fundraise. I've got to go talk to all these people. So Brad White clearly runs the defense. He's doing a great job, right? Offensively, we keep changing guys. When we were going with Eddie Gran was a really good human and he really set up the culture, okay? The O-line was awesome. We had draft picks, so they could just dominate the room and be like, you're doing this, shut up. You stop talking. This is how we do it. Yeah. We don't have those guys anymore because the O-line can't speak up because someone would just say, well, you're the worst team. You're the worst player on the team. You're the worst. You're third worst, fourth worst, fifth worst, and just point them out. So they can't do it. The quarterbacks just come in. He ain't playing well, so he can't do it. So our best two players, supposedly, are the wide receivers. And, I don't know a whole lot about them, but they're the guys bopping guys on the head and doing things like how you can't run that program like that. And that's what's been so hard on offense.
Well, by their nature, wide receivers, not just the ones on the team. Right. That's kind of it's kind of how that room operates sometimes.
Luckett frequently uses the phrase wide receiver culture.
And I don't know. Obviously, we knew at the time that he was doing a really good job. But honestly, with the passing of John Slarman, we probably didn't realize at the time how much of an impact that was going to have on the program.
Absolutely.
Massive.
They still have not recovered from that. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah, there was a lot to unpack there. So I'm just going to stop for a second and tell you about Club Blue NIL. It's the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky, and it was founded by UK fans strictly to support the student athletes at the University of Kentucky. And unlike most collectives, 100% of subscriber money and 100% of donor money, it goes directly to NIL. Club Blue charges no fees. And you can receive some amazing benefits like the stuff that we saw at historic Memorial Coliseum last Friday. Invitations, special events, meet and greets with athletes, signed merch, monthly giveaways, ticket giveaways, and much, much more. Just subscribe today, clubbluenil.com. You can get to pick what sport you want to support when you sign up. It's pretty simple. So go to the website and check it out today. That's clubbluenil.com. I did see something, my neighbor bartends at U of L sporting events. Nice little side gig, right? And do people go to those? Well, to drink. Like, he's the busiest person at the stadium. Nobody works harder at a U of L football or basketball game than the bartenders. And they have an option now. You can tip the bartenders, but you can also just round up to the nearest cent to NIL. I think that's not a bad idea.
The nearest dollar, you mean?
Whatever. Cent, dollar.
Cent be nice.
Those are good. Those are the tricks you got to do.
Yeah. Hey, it's like sticking a few quarters
in
in
the decimals over there, a little funny money.
Yeah. I can just imagine it's like the old gas station that they used to have for the U of L. I would like what does the U of L fan look like that's jingling the bell like the Salvation Army bell ringer? Just got the wine beards. No, they're holding a giant bag of Crown Royal, and they're ringing their bell to dump some nil coins in for the Crown Royal. It's not we're not doing the Crown Royal bags, but just something to put in your pocket. Club Blue.
I did not win the Club Blue 50-50 Friday night. Talking about Club Blue, that's I think another good thing to raise money.
They did the 50-50s. You didn't win it though.
I didn't. They did that at the Blue White game. Club Blue keep doing that. Everybody loves the 50-50.
Dude,
but
I love 50-50 so much, and I'm gonna you can't ever say no.
You're telling me I have a 50% chance to win that money? Of course I'm going to get in there, but I did not win that time.
Next time.
But they do a lot of tricks like that too. The QR codes, the bourbon raffle, Club Blue, that was all part of the Blue White Friday night.
And that other team, they'll be playing Wednesday night, so that's something else to watch.
Perfect timing for that, huh?
Yeah. And I hate being that guy. When we would do this podcast with Jared, they all hated it. But
Speaking of, Freddie's watching right now. He hated it. He messaged me that he's watching.
I know he hated it, but there is very much of the offense. Please, just break a tackle. I don't think I'm asking too much, but or tie your shoes, Wilcox. He immediately got in, 20-yard run. We spent all week over the dumb shoe tying thing, and what happens?
Can I also maybe point something out? Catch the ball on punt return. Just go and catch it.
Just please.
The guy's averaging 50, and he kicked one of them 60, and we're supposed to have good punt returners back there. One of them's keeping Barry Brown out, so he should be good. He literally ran away from the ball when he had space. Why?
Well, I think
he actually got a decent return out of it, but it was lucky. That ball could have went 80 yards.
The one
he
before
just let
half.
it bounce. Go get it.
The one before half, I was he is actively running away from it, and they actually told him to. They went for the block, and they were like, don't try to catch it.
All right.
Which is even weirder.
If your offense,
then put the guy on the line and try to block it.
Have an extra person.
I understand it if you're putting up 40 points, but if you're putting up 13 a game, don't you want to get every possible offensive yard you can possibly get? Don't you want to go catch the ball and just try, see if you can get a return? Because you're not getting it with your offense.
Yeah, I think the argument is Barry Brown is really good at returning. Maybe you should create as many returning touches as possible in a football game.
Wait, that's logical, What are you doing over here?
He'll get tired, though.
Yeah.
That's my thing. We talk about his workload. How about we make his workload returning?
Just return.
Preseason All-American specialist. I know he's got more kick returns than punt returns, but I want him back there every time.
I also get why you wouldn't want to pigeonhole a player because you want him to be he wants to be receiver first. But Barry Brown's going to play in the league because of what he brings as a returner. That's going to be.
And be like your guy Charlie Jones. He's not going to play receiver a bunch. He's going to return.
Yeah, so I don't, whatever.
The vibes are low right now, if you couldn't tell. And I hate being the vibes are low guy, but I don't know what to do.
You didn't make them low. You don't have to feel bad. Yeah. They're low because of the play on the field. You didn't do anything.
And interesting, anyone in the chat, if you have season tickets, are you planning to go? If so, why? But what are your all's thoughts with this crowd is gonna? I think it's gonna be fine because it's the Keeneland double dip.
A lot of people picked this one before the year.
They plan these way in advance, so people are still gonna go. I think it'll still be a good crowd. I think Auburn will probably bring a good chunk of people. It's the first time they've come up here in a while. But I'm interested, not necessarily the crowd size, but how does the crowd turn? How does the crowd handle adversity?
Especially if there's a moment. If they score with 2 minutes in the half, I'm leaving Kroger Field because there will be boos. I mean, he was booed last time we were at home over a few decisions, but a few of these mistakes to keep rearing their head. If they get on the goal line and don't punch it in, I think the fans that will voice their frustrations.
My favorite people are like, it's Sunday or Monday after a game, and you're just like, I ain't even going to watch. And then you watch. I know it. I'm looking at you. You're going to watch the game. Now, will you turn it off quicker because you're mad and you want to watch Texas fans throw trash on the field? Sure. Right. I totally get that. But I always love that.
Will you be screaming timeout at your TV when there's 40 seconds left in the half instead of waiting till 20 and then calling the timeout? Probably. But you'll be watching.
Also, to add to that, I've seen people with tickets say they're sitting this one out. You already paid for it. Weather's going to be good. What are you really going to do?
Is the tailgate still fun?
You're going to mow. We only got a few of these left. See your buddies. Everybody's got their friends. You only see at games.
Probably met them through games. Home game. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is
We're
true. We're
halfway through.
That's crazy.
We are 7 games through, and here's a real conversation. This bowl streak is in jeopardy.
Serious.
Serious jeopardy. We started after the bye week saying this 3-game stretch between Vanderbilt and Auburn and how am I forgetting Florida? We just played that game. That 3-game stretch is critical, and it's going to define your season. Well, you lost your first 2. So you're 3-4. You have to win 3 games out of your last 5. Okay? One of them's Murray State. Max, are the Racers good?
They're terrible.
Terrible. So
give them the percentage chance game. It's Max's favorite.
Oh, you love percentage chance games?
Chance we lose to Murray?
Yes.
That and make a bowl, though.
No. The chance we lose to Murray is less than 0.
Okay.
We would not even we don't even have to turn up. There might not even have to be players out there. They'd make enough mistakes by themselves. That staff is terrible. They might make enough mistakes by themselves that they end up getting their own safety.
I'm serious.
We could win 2-0 without even going on that field. They lost to a Division II team. You could get me going about Murray.
So
sounds like we did.
So you have 4 games then, and you need to win 2. 2 of them are on the road to top 10 teams, Tennessee and Texas. And as bad as Nico has been, which he has not been good.
He might beat Tennessee.
I mean, Alabama should have been up 17-0 in the first half there, but Jalen Milroe just can't figure it out. But we all know he's going to turn into the Heisman guy, right? He's going to be Peyton freaking Manning against us, and it's just going to be awful.
Hear your guys' thoughts, but we complain about some of our play calling. Imagine having a guy with 2 minutes left, and you're 4 and 22, and you go, well, let's run a screen where we throw the ball 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, and just hope that he makes 5 guys miss. I mean, that was one of the worst.
Great call by Kalen DeBoer.
I've ever seen.
But you got Tennessee, Texas on the road. Let's just not even entertain those. So Kentucky has to beat Auburn and beat Louisville to go to a 9th straight bowl game. Neither are great. Does anybody have any confidence that they'll win both?
I think it's more likely that they would lose one of those. I will say, I watched my first Louisville football game this weekend of the year.
That's an experience, isn't it? Wild ride.
And I'm including Miami in this. Those 2 teams cannot defense. They cannot tackle.
No.
They cannot do anything.
No.
I even thought Miami was legit. I'm throwing them out. But I still have a little faith in that Louisville game because those teams were doing whatever they wanted, and it was mostly because the defenses were so incapable of stopping them.
It's the Kentucky offense.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up the predicament. I think Louisville's defense is so bad, but then I have to look at Kentucky's offense. I don't know that I can put them on a tier above Louisville's. It's going to be like a clash of who I don't trust on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
It would be hilarious if that was the offense's get right is the last game of the year. It's we just needed to play Louisville defense earlier.
I mean, series history kind of tells you that's always been a get right game. Yeah. Even the Rich Gangarello year, Louisville had a good, a top 25 defense, probably the best one they've had in the last post Charlie Strong era. And Kentucky really should have scored 30-something points that game. They had to settle for a bunch of field goals and scored 26, which was a season high.
Was the
26 points
MVP.
was a season high against power conference teams that season.
Jesus.
And the key is going to be, though, in those games is do we start as an underdog? because we can't play as a favourite.
Well, they're
so
favorites.
if you just make us an underdog, we're sweet. Like, I genuinely think we've got a chance against Tennessee. We're going to be like a 10-point underdog, 13-point underdog. Perfect. Bring it on. They're terrible.
Well,
we're going to start as a favourite this Saturday. It's going to be tough.
Favorite against Auburn, and Auburn, Stoops said it, Auburn's a good football team that just loves to lose football games. They're
kind of the Spider-Man meme this week.
Yeah, it really is. Like, which team is going to turn the ball over? Who makes more cataclysmic turnovers, Kentucky or Auburn? I don't know.
Well, Hugh Freeze has the comment. I mean, of the 100 times that we play them, will it be the one where we beat them, or will it be the 99 where they should have beaten us?
And I want to add that I also watched Auburn for the first time last weekend.
Yeah, that is an
I don't want to
experience.
talk myself into Kentucky winning these games because I'm just as disappointed by Kentucky. But that's another team I was just thinking, like, they just don't have it. I mean, Missouri's backup quarterback played the majority of that game. And
I would feel better about the Auburn game if I didn't watch skinny posts just get wide open against Florida.
Oh, Cam
because
Coleman.
That's what they do best, is throw it deep.
Keandre Lambert-Smith, Cam Coleman, they're going to have some deep balls, and it's going to be bad, but they still only scored 17 points.
Cam Coleman, that's a name we were in with, right? I recognize.
That was one.
He was on the spreadsheet.
He caught a touchdown, and as soon as they said it, I thought, I remember that recruitment. Want him to be a cat.
He looks like an NFL wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He's like 6'4". That touchdown he had last week was pretty cool. But they had a chance to win it, and then they blew it, and then Drinkwitz had like a win-win for the Gipper. Brady Cook was on his deathbed, and they did CPR on him. He came back to life. And he only had 2.5 more games at Fairfield, and he had to come out there and win one for the team, and it was just the biggest cornball bullcrap. But we can't even make fun of that because we're down bad. We're down bad.
It's not good. It's not good, boys.
You know what is good? AARP Kentucky.
Your transitions into
the transitions are bad too this week, people. I'm sorry. There's a lot on the line this election. For protecting Social Security, you've earned, supporting family caregivers, and you have the power to make the candidates listen, because voters 50 and over, they decide elections. That's why AARP Kentucky has created an election guide with the most up-to-date information about when, where, and how you can vote. Make sure the candidates hear from you. Get trusted election information from aarp.org/KYVotes. That's aarp.org/KYVotes. Paid for by AARP. Couple more weeks of the election, and I hope when it's over we don't miss out on Dana Carvey, Joe Biden impressions, because it's so funny. He's just like, wow. It makes me,
what?
You know what I mean? It makes me laugh every time.
I grew up a big SNL fan, and it has pained me to watch it this last decade. It has been terrible. I've actually hated it. But they have found something recently with Dana's Joe. I thought Jim Gaffigan's Tim Walz was good.
Yeah.
This political cycle, which I hate in itself, I ignore all of that.
But the jokes.
But SNL has found some gold in this current election cycle.
Their guy that does Trump's really good. John David Williams, or I don't know what his name is.
Nobody's Shane Gillis, but he's good too.
Yeah.
But SNL's back a little bit was my point. I grew up loving it, and it's just been so terrible lately. But Bergazzi having those two, the George Washington skits, and then
the water slide, Nate Bergazzi water slide skit.
That one too.
Great stuff.
They're back. SNL's back.
I don't know what that is. That's back. It's not a bird. It sounds like a vulture. It's gone.
That's dead.
That's the explosive play button trying to get warmed up.
We're trying to mash it. I don't really. We had a weird press conference with Mark Stoops. If you haven't watched it yet, it's like 20 minutes. It was just weird. They're going to be weird.
He's been very down in not the Monday things, but the Tom Leach. I know you all were there. I don't know if you've heard the radio, but like right after games, it's like of course he's down because they lost, but there's also just this not having any answers. Not like he doesn't want to answer, like he is very confused about what's going on.
And that's not a good sign.
No. And it's not that he's hiding something, it's that he cannot find the answer to
the whole press conference of being surprised that this is how the team performed, not kind of having the pulse of the team, is very concerning to me.
Yeah. I don't think he's in it anymore. His heart's not in it. I usually dismiss those, like any sort of body language or Malik Monk's laughing on the bench so he doesn't care about Kentucky. Like, I normally am very dismissive of any of those notions, but I don't know. I mean, it's starting to creep into my mind just a little bit.
Okay. But you saw how passionate he was after the Ole Miss game.
Exactly. That's why it's so hard for me to buy into that.
Now, and if the people at UK are listening to this, go show him this clip, because you seem to show him all the other negative ones. Look, He is the best coach for us right now, and he's been the best coach for us for a long time. We made 8 bowl games in a row. He's allowed a down year, to me. You guys might say, no, it's been trending down. He's allowed a down year. We have made bowl games time after time after time. When the program was terrible, they were Murray State, right? He has consistently recruited and kept the guys really, really good, right? We do not lose talent. But I think the only thing the last few years seems to be, he seems to be mystified by, like, how do I kind of navigate myself through this NIL world? How do I, like, the attitude of the players is different. They know they can go other places. Like, I think he's just trying to figure it out. And if you see that reaction after Ole Miss, there is no way in the world he's checked out and like, I don't really care. He cares. I mean, look at him. He was putting his fist up at the crowd like that. I think he's the best. To go off one pony up comment as well, to all the fans, sure, use it, whatever. I know it wasn't the greatest, but have we never said one thing that we wish we could take back? Like, not smart, I agree, but he has said 99.9% things right in the media. Always puts it back on himself. I think he's awesome. I just think he's really struggling to navigate through this NIL world, and I think this year he's like, man, I really thought I had it figured out, and I haven't, and I think we're going to see a change in philosophy and how they bring guys in after this year if he sticks around. Now, he may not want to. He may say, dude, I'm done. I want to go do something else. But I think the philosophy will change. You look at what they talk about with Indiana, right? Indiana didn't go out and get all the flashy whatever. They went and got guys with experience, guys that had played with a chip on their shoulder that were really, really good players, but in really small schools. And it seemed to work. I don't know if you go and get that guy that didn't make it at Florida, didn't make it at Tennessee, didn't make it here and there. I think maybe you go down that path that Indiana did.
I mean, Indiana's a little different because they just imported JMU. But
a little.
To Max's point, though, I agree with this, and I believe this. Mark Stoops has done enough where if he wants to come back, he 100% gets to come back, and like he deserves the opportunity to try to pull them out of this rut that we're all like perplexed by. But there does need to be some, I think, maybe roster building tinkering, specifically in the cult, like setting their however they need to set their culture, and that's something they have to figure out.
Because the recruit and develop thing, the culture building was high school based, and then the portal changed everything, and he's not as good now as he was then. So how do you figure that out? Well, like that's the part. Like, I know everybody's dealing with it, but how does he find the right medium? Because it felt like early on he felt the right medium with some of those transfer guys, and he didn't get too transfer heavy. But like there's been more misses as of late.
You also had more carryover from guys that weren't involved in that NIL era. So you had that team building culture that kind of fed through, and now. And it's got to be, I mean, that's the thing. I think that's why he's out of answers, because he's like, I'm not sure what I do if I've got to bring this amount of guys in.
They've taken transfers, but they're not a transfer team.
Yeah.
They have invested heavily in retention, in bringing guys back. And when you do that, those guys have to deliver for you. And some of those guys just, not enough of them have.
Yeah.
And I think that is ultimately probably this current team's biggest issue.
Max kind of answered this earlier, and Danielle Bratcher, this is my answer, who asked online. But I think with kind of when he brings these transfers in, and they're the best players on the team, like he's saying, the offensive linemen, no one really wants to hear them tell everyone what to do right now.
Yeah.
But we talk about this. We've talked about it multiple off seasons. I remember writing a story about this at SEC Media Days. He intentionally doesn't crown these SEC transfers when they come in because he doesn't want them taking over a locker room from guys that have been there. But I think that might lead to them kind of staying in their lane and being more timid than they would be. And you get to a point where no one's in the room, a player, to be like, Wilcox, tie your damn shoes. You know, all this Stoops put so much on the players. And I feel like, I mean, Max just said this. If Dane Key's the best player in the room, is a wide receiver the guy that can kind of step up and be that guy? You need it to be your quarterback, but, you know, is anyone going to listen to Brock Vandegrift, who just got here and had been playing well? So I think with all these transfers coming in, they kind of don't have the veteran in the locker room that's not afraid to stand up and put some guys in their place, some things that the coaches aren't able to do.
They haven't found the right balance, and we knew the margin was thin, but it's getting thinner.
Because there's definitely something to player acquisition and then player retention, and there's no better example than Army and Navy right now. They can't do transfers, and yeah, they might lose a couple, but they are able to build consistently all the time. And yes, okay, they're playing against some worse teams than we are, but they're still they're still an absolute wagon right now. Like, I mean, there's something to that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all. Either.
No,
Yeah.
and other teams have been able to bring guys in and be really good. I get it.
So
but-
you have to be really good, I think. One, talent development, fit, adjusting to your personnel, all of that. And I think that they've struggled a little bit at all of those things. And so that's kind of created, I think, the system, or not the system, the kind of what we have right now in the program.
It's a mess.
Again, and the churn on offense.
That's a short way to put it.
The churn on offense has just been. That's just tough. That's tough. Like, what they're dealing with from just. I mean, it's not just offensive coordinator. It's another offensive line coach. It's another receivers coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is your third offensive line coach in 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, or 4 years. Excuse me. You know, I guess Wolford and he's double dipped. But then 5 OCs in 5 years.
How many receivers coaches?
How many? I mean, it's
like
every
4 or 5.
Every 2 years they're changing receivers coaches since Stoops got here. It's just like Dan Key has played for 3 offensive coordinators and 3 receiver coaches.
3 quarterbacks. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's a
That's
rotating
actually
door.
nuts when you say that out
Yeah.
loud. How could anyone be expected to really be and match their potential when every spring you're shaking? What's your name? Nice to meet you. What's our playbook? You're starting from scratch every season.
If I was to bet on one thing of the difference of this offseason, if he decides to stay, and I really hope he does, that I think that he'll put a bit more emphasis on, is I don't think it used to be an emphasis to worry about character. I think it was, let's get the best talented players we can. They'll come in, we'll tell them what to do, we'll recruit, like we said, we'll develop them, they'll be good. I think this offseason you're going to see a bit of a shift in that facility of, let's worry a little bit about their character. Like, let's make sure they just fit in and they're just a little bit better.
I think when they got it going, they felt good about their culture,
Yep.
and they said, "Add these guys, the culture will take care of them."
And it hadn't.
Maybe that's been turned on its head, and so
Yeah.
maybe to Max's point, that's maybe
Yeah, like
the,
let's add some
the
talented
character
pieces
fit might be huge.
to help us take another step, and then you're plugging one hole, and then it makes another. So it's a mess.
Fun conversation.
Did we get anywhere? Did we
Yeah.
go? Did we take this to a place? Do we feel better? I don't know if we feel better. I think we got somewhere.
No.
There.
A little group therapy, a little group hug here today with our friends on YouTube.
I would feel a lot better if they just played noon games, though. Like, can we do the noon so we can watch the? I still don't know why Texas threw trash on the field. Is it?
I had both games on.
What-
I might have had more eyes on Georgia, Texas.
What happened? They paid, the refs were bad, but I thought Texas was getting their ass kicked.
It was a PI, and the Texas fans decided it wasn't a PI, so they threw things on the field. Sarkisian went over there, which I thought it was really bad and like almost, what's the word? Not very respectful of your head coach when he's a recovering alcoholic and you want to throw beers on the field. Like, I mean, the guy's trying to get over it. And you're all encouraging him. Like, what are we doing here? But anyway, they discussed it and they said, you know what? Texas fans got a point. Let's go pick up the cans. And let's go pick up the flag.
Man, he's getting killed by Kirby Smart. And he's just like, damn, I just need a sip.
You know, there's a big fight on who the real UT is. Last time we saw that was Tennessee, Ole Miss.
Oh man,
Now
Texas got some
Oh,
real
yeah.
Tennessee
What are we doing
energy.
here? They need to play every year. Let's just build a beer trophy and let's go at it. Put a golf ball on top of it and call it the tea bag or something.
Yeah, the University of Throwing. Who's the real University of Throwing?
Oh man,
I've never seen a head coach, so Texas did this. Ewers was he wasn't really making bad decisions. He wasn't playing that bad. He was just getting lit up every single play by Georgia. Georgia were absolutely crushing them. So Sarkisian, rather than go, all right, let's do something, he just said, you know what, let's put the backup in, let him get tackled, let him get hit. We'll make some changes at halftime, but just let him get hit for a couple of drives. So he went out there, he got smashed for 2 drives. They went to halftime, they put Ewers back out there, they started scoring some points. But he literally put him out there as a tackling dummy.
oh
Just need yours to regroup for a minute.
man, really upset I missed out on that money line. Florida, they got a lot of things going for them. Don't have the gambling yet, though. They need to figure that out.
You didn't miss out on much because I bet Kentucky money line.
Kentucky, California, we were listening to a 49ers broadcast. They have casinos, but they don't have sports gambling. What? How does that?
It's a little weird.
How does that?
Missing out.
What? I don't understand. I don't know really why I said that. We're at a weird spot.
I know you were wanting on this, but you were in the wrong state. But to everyone who was like me, had the Kentucky defensive special teams touchdown, that was a wild ride.
Yeah.
Because we got tackled inside the 10. Thought, well, that's out. Close. Great idea. Almost had it. Lost that money. And then Barryon comes through. Almost the 2 TD night for the defense special teams.
I want to say Baryon's return was absolutely ridiculous.
That's what sucks, too. It's like you get an awesome play in a loss.
Resets.
It was just, that was like, I was trying to think. It reminded me of like just when Tyreek Hill has the ball and he's just weaving in and out, around people, through people. I was just like, Jesus.
He kind of came to a complete stop and regrouped, found him, and started back up.
David Washington, true freshman receiver, tried to tackle him, and he pretty much stiff-armed him to get out of the way, and then just finishes it. Just an absolutely insane return. Unbelievable.
Especially with the timing.
No one will remember it. That was honestly the play of the year. That was a ridiculous return.
And then now we're just like, why can't we have that all the time? It's the Kentucky football experience. It's never boring.
What other positives did we have from the game? That return was awesome. Probably Baryon's best work to date. That had no business going back for a touchdown.
The flea flicker was cool. That was
Did anyone... we were already a little frustrated at the point of the night. After Cutter Bowley's interception, I thought that was a completion to Demi, unbelievably.
That was.
I didn't think so in real time, but when they showed the replay, I think that should have been a catch. I had fun watching Cutter, given the circumstances.
Apparently, Cutter jogged over to the sideline after that first throw and pick and said, well, can only go up from here. So he was kind of laughing about it a little bit too.
You saw his arm talent.
That throw to Gilmore, it didn't get completed, but that was a throw.
Threw one on the move.
Whip of the wrist, like how the ball just jumps out of his hands. Like you see why, it's like, oh, this dude can really spin it. Just complete one.
I was a little worried for confidence issues.
You saw the talent.
And honestly, some people complained about it and said they put him in a bad spot. I'm guessing and I'm guaranteeing he wasn't like, you put me in a bad spot, that was terrible. He'd be like, I got out there, I got to throw it.
I agree.
Put him out there and let him do it. If we lost the game, go for it. Show us what you can do.
Stoops said afterward that he wouldn't do that to everybody, but that he could handle it. You all were in the room.
Because he's come from a strong culture, LCA.
Right.
We taught him well.
He's played in those atmospheres before.
Yeah,
is it how many more playoff time yet?
2 more games and then playoff time. We're ready to go. We're rolling. I'm expecting a lot of running clocks in playoffs.
You got any kickers back?
Wow.
Are all your kickers still
Had another kicker hurt on the weekend.
Dude,
we're down.
I think we need an investigation into this.
I don't know if it's the steroids I'm giving them or what it is, but they all keep getting hurt.
Oh, man. Well, we were playing a little hurt this week. Everybody's hurting around Big Blue Nation. Hopefully this could help. I don't know if it did or not. There was a lot of just words, so hopefully you found something good in there on the KSR Football Podcast. We'll have more next week. We almost lost the microphone.
Ball security.
That's our cue to cut it. Let's.
Love y'all.